Super Duties are piling up on dealer lots, and as a Ford dealer myself, I'm here to tell you exactly why that is. But before I do that, I want to show you two really cool trucks. This is an F-350 single wheel trimmer. This is one of those vehicles that was extremely hard to get a hold of in the COVID times, but yet again, they're starting to pile up on dealer lots. And in this video, I'm going to cover a vehicle just like this one, and I'm going to compare it to something just like this right next to it that TC Customs has built themselves. But first off, let's talk about how cool the trimmer is. I am going to go over in full detail exactly why these things are piling up, but I think it's kind of cool to show you both of these trucks side by side. As you guys know, the 2024 and really the 2025, there's not a whole lot of differences except for colors and a couple of single options. If you want more information on exactly what has changed between the 24 and 25, I'll have that linked up right there. Check it out if you want to see that video. But this particular truck is equipped with, once again, the trimmer package. And what I love about the trimmer package is this is kind of like the closest thing you can get to an F-150 Raptor, but in a Super Duty body. So the first thing you've got is you've got these off-road Goodyear Duratrack tires. These are 285/75 R18s. And so you've got an 18-inch wheel and you've got a nice little sidewall that's perfect for off-roading. Now, what's fun fact for you is the trimmer does have different towing capacities than a normal Super Duty. So just kind of consider that before you pick up a trimmer yourself. Also, you'll notice that the suspension is going to be a little bit different. So you need to know that before you pick out a trimmer, because if you're going to be upfitting it with a lift kit, you need to know, because not all lift kits work with the trimmer suspension. But I will say the trimmer has got a really cool feature where you can get the power deployable steps from the factory, just like this one has, but you also have the ability to get a Raptor style running board that basically is stationary. It's got this really high texture, almost like a spray and bedliner type of a material to it. And both options are nice, but I really do like the power deployable running boards that this one has. This is a Lariat Super Duty that lists for $94,395, but yet has rubberized flooring in the vehicle. Now keep in mind that they come standard with the carpet, and this one's got the carpet delete. And I just think it's kind of funny. We're talking about $100,000 before discounts for a truck with rubber floors. The rest of the inside of this particular 350 is really nice though. You have the black leather, the perforated seats, which allows for the airflow on the air conditioned or ventilated seats as they call it. Fun fact for you, for the 25 model, these are no longer going to be leather, but instead Active X material. Now thankfully, they're still going to be ventilated, but it's kind of nice, and maybe a reason to go ahead and pick up a 24 now is while they still have the leather while it lasts. Now let's take a look at this TC Customs built F-350. One of the reasons that I love this particular truck so much is because you have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to the options. Obviously, this one is not equipped with the trimmer package because we've completely updated the suspension, and let's take a look. Here we're working with a Fabtech 4-inch lift kit. The reason I love Fabtech, well, number one, they're just good people. I've been knowing them for quite some time. And by the way, they're not paying me a penny to say this, and they make a hell of a product, pardon my French. But what you have to get this lift in the front, you've got a set of coils in the front that are replaced by Fabtech. And in addition, this one has got the remote reservoir shocks up front, which is going to allow for a little bit more abuse off-road, but it also just allows for a much better ride. And speaking of better ride, this one is also upfitted with the brand new and redesigned tubular radius arms from Fabtech. Now, this is supposed to give you a much better ride than just doing a radius arm drop bracket, but it is also supposed to be able to make it to where it's nice and off-road. All of the suspension geometry is going to be in the perfect location, and I would argue it's got better clearance since you're not having to use a drop bracket. It just bolts right up into the factory mounting points. All of that suspension work clears room for a set of 38-inch Nitto Ridge Grapplers. And as you guys know, Nittos are my favorite tire. Once again, not sponsored. We just have installed so many sets of these. We have unbelievable reliability, and the longevity is fantastic. I will say Nittos are very expensive, but what's that old saying? You get what you pay for. And those are wrapped around a set of Fuel Covert 20x10.
A 10! A 10!
And if you need a height comparison on this truck compared to me, I'm 6'3", so you can tell how tall the truck is compared to this trimmer over here. But regardless of how tall you are, this truck is a lot easier to get into because of the amp power deployable steps. And I love these steps because they do come down ever so slightly lower than the factory running boards, on that Tremor right next to us. And the better part about this setup is if you needed to come down even further, AMP sells an XL running board that comes down even further than what you're seeing here. Just makes it a lot easier to get in and out of the vehicle. And so with that being said, these two trucks are about $4,000 or $5,000 difference at the end of the day between these two. So my question down below is, which one would you rather have since the price point is so very close? Now, as promised, let's talk about why these vehicles are sitting on dealer lots for an extended period of time right now. Number one, we are smack in the middle of an election cycle. Now, what does that have to do? What does politics have to do with pickup trucks? Well, it's very simple. Every single 4 years, I'm old enough that I've been here for 25 years, I've seen a lot of different election cycles. And what I've noticed is that people freeze 30, 60, 90 days out from an election cycle because, oh, this person didn't get elected or that person did get elected, and they just want to freeze up and they don't want to buy anything right before those elections happen. The good news is that right after those elections happen, people typically get back to buying as normal. And in the meantime, Ford is still building these trucks. And so you have an increase in supply and you have basically a decrease in demand temporarily, because it's definitely not the truck's fault. The trucks are fantastic, but you have that little supply versus demand means you can get a better deal right before an election. Next up, let's talk about interest rates. This has a massive effect on people's ability to buy a truck that lists for almost $100,000. Quite frankly, I think that these interest rates are causing people in their payments to be significantly higher than they have been in the past. And so it's probably taken a few people out of the market because instead of a 3.9 or a 2.9% for 72 months, or 84, which is what most people do, whether we think that's smart or not, we can have that conversation down in the comments, but that's what most people do, is a 72, 75, or an 84-month payment. And since you're adding in 3 or 4 or 5% of interest extra compared to what we were doing just a few years ago, that makes the vehicle all that much more unaffordable. And speaking of unaffordable, yes, these trucks are expensive, but I don't think these are necessarily the problem. You have a lot of people right now that are simply struggling to buy a carton of eggs or a gallon of milk. Things are just a whole lot more expensive all across the board. And so the inflation just across America is going to take a lot of people that were on the cusp of being able to afford one of these trucks. It takes them instantly out of the market. Whereas they said, yes, I could afford this vehicle, but you know what? My housing payment now is going to be so much more. I can't necessarily afford the truck. I need to put my house before the truck. Or they just need to put their grocery bills ahead of buying that nice new truck that can pull that trailer that you were wanting to buy for the last 20 years. And so overall, I believe that inflation, not just on the trucks, because there's been price inflation on these trucks too, but I think that overall inflation is a big reason some of these trucks are catching up on dealer lots. The last reason these trucks are backing up on dealer lots is because of greedy Ford dealers. Now, a lot of Ford dealers, they are my friends because I'm one as well. But at the end of the day, there's so many Ford dealers that don't realize that we're in a different time than we were just 1, 2, or 3 years ago. I call it the COVID years, where you had one truck and 5 customers all fighting for that one truck. That's not the situation that we're in now. And that's the reason that Town & Country Ford, our dealership, we are so proud to be offering invoice pricing on any of these Super Duties that you order. Automatic, without question. We'll even put it for you in writing. But at the end of the day, if this video gives you any value at all, that's all I'm shooting for. And so the only thing I'm asking to you in return is to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel with the bell notification turned on so you don't miss a single video.